They called him a god. His enemies dropped to their knees before the battle even started. He never lost a single war. But what happens when you give the greatest conqueror in history a modern army? Picture this. The year is 323 BC. Alexander the Great has already conquered most of the known world. Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, all of it his. He did this with swords, spears, and sheer willpower. No gunpowder, no radios, no satellites, just men, horses, and one terrifying mind. Now imagine we erase the weapons, but keep the man. We give Alexander the same battlefield instincts, the same genius, the same soldiers, but now they carry rifles, drones, and cruise missiles. The question isn't just who wins. The question is, how fast does the world fall? Alexander was born in 356 BC in Macedonia, a small northern Greek kingdom. Most people dismissed Macedonia. They called it barbaric, unsophisticated. Alexander's father, Philip II, changed that. He built one of the most disciplined armies in ancient history. And when Alexander took the throne at just 20 years old, he took that army and did something no one had ever done. He kept winning and winning and winning. His soldiers were called the Macedonian phalanx, rows of men with 18-foot spears called sarissas, walking walls of steel points, almost impossible to break from the front. But Alexander was never just about brute force. He was about speed. He was about reading the enemy's mind before the enemy knew what they were thinking. At the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC, he faced Darius III of Persia. Ancient accounts claimed the Persian army may have numbered over 100,000 men. Alexander had maybe 47,000. He won anyway, not by matching numbers, by finding the one crack and driving straight through it. That's what made him terrifying. He didn't fight harder. He fought smarter. So now, what if that same mind had access to something the ancient world could never imagine? Let's talk about what a modern army actually means. We're not giving Alexander one tank. We're giving him the full package. Start with the basics. The M1A2 Abrams tank. 68 tons of armor and firepower. It fires a 120mm shell. That shell travels at 1,700 meters per second. It can hit a target over 4 kilometers away with near perfect accuracy. In Alexander's time, the longest ranged weapon was a catapult. Max range? Maybe 300 meters. Accuracy? Completely unreliable. The Abrams hits targets 13 times further away and almost never misses. But that's just the tanks. Now add the F-35 fighter jet. Top speed, Mach 1.6. That's over 1,900 kilometers per hour. It carries weapons that can hit targets it cannot even see. Radar-guided missiles that track heat signatures from kilometers away. Alexander's fastest weapon was a horse. A horse gallops at about 65 kilometers per hour. The F-35 is literally 29 times faster than the fastest thing Alexander ever fought. And we haven't even mentioned the drones yet. The MQ-9 Reaper, a drone that flies at 480 kilometers per hour. It carries Hellfire missiles. Each one is capable of destroying armored vehicles from the sky. One single F-35 sortie could cripple an ancient army before it even understood what was happening. To Alexander's soldiers, this wouldn't feel like war. It would feel like the gods themselves had turned against them. So let's put it together. Alexander has unified his forces. He's studied his maps. He's given his speech. And gods, the man could give a speech. His soldiers are ready to die for him. They always were. His cavalry is positioned on the right flank, his favorite position. He's waiting for the enemy to make the first mistake. Except this enemy doesn't make mistakes the same way. The first thing Alexander would notice is the sound. A low hum, far away, getting louder. His horses would panic first. Animals always feel it before humans do. The cavalry, Alexander's greatest asset, suddenly becomes a liability. 10,000 trained war horses, all terrified, all pulling in different directions. His commanders try to hold the line. Alexander raises his hand. Steady, steady. Then the first explosion hits. Not close. Far behind the army. A supply line. Gone. Just gone. In 4 seconds. Alexander turns. He sees smoke rising from where his food and water were. His engineers. His siege equipment. All destroyed. And no one, not one soldier in his army, saw what hit them. The battle doesn't last long after that. That's the hard truth. And somehow, that makes it worse. The Reapers come in low and fast. Hellfire missiles hit the phalanx formations. Those tight, disciplined rows. The thing that made the Macedonian army so powerful become the thing that destroys them. Packed together, they have nowhere to run. The formations break within minutes. But here's the moment no one expected. Alexander doesn't retreat. He rides forward, directly toward the explosions. His commanders scream at him to stop. He doesn't stop. He never stopped. That was always who he was. He charges, alone, towards something he cannot see, cannot understand, and cannot fight. It's the bravest thing on the battlefield, and the most heartbreaking, because bravery means nothing against a hellfire Hellfire missile traveling at 1.3 kilometers per second. His soldiers see him ride forward, and they follow. 10,000 men, running toward their deaths because their king ran first. That's the twist no military simulation prepared for. The modern weapons win in minutes, but Alexander's soldiers choose to die with him willingly. That's not tactics. That's something deeper, and that's where it becomes hard to watch. Because Alexander wasn't just a conqueror. He was a human being who genuinely believed he was doing something sacred. He wept when his best friend Hephaestion died. He sat by the body for 2 days. He refused to eat. He cut his hair in grief, an ancient Greek mourning ritual. He named cities after his horse. He wrote letters home to his mother that historians still study because they were so full of love. This was a man who carried books into battle, who studied philosophy under Aristotle, who dreamed of uniting the entire world, not just conquering it. When he lay dying at 32 years old, possibly from fever, possibly from poison, his soldiers filed past his bed for days, not to report, not for orders, just to see him one last time. Men who had fought wars for 13 years, weeping like children. What the modern weapons destroy isn't just an army, it's a dream that took one human lifetime to build. And there's something in that, something worth sitting with, because we've never had another Alexander. In all of recorded history, just one. And in this scenario, he likely wouldn't survive the opening phase of the battle. Not because he wasn't brilliant enough, not because he wasn't brave enough, but because the world moved on. And brilliance, without the right tools, can only go so far. So, would Alexander the Great win with a modern army? The answer is almost certainly yes, and not just win, dominate. Alexander's genius wasn't in the weapons he used. It was in how he thought. Speed, deception, reading the battlefield in real time, knowing when to strike and where. Those are qualities that translate perfectly to modern warfare. Military historians have actually said this. His tactics at Gaugamela mirror concepts still taught at West Point today. With drones for real-time surveillance, he would have seen every enemy formation before the battle started. With cruise missiles, he could have destroyed supply lines before armies even reached the field. With an F-35, he could have demoralized any enemy before ground forces engaged. The modern army gives his genius the tools it always deserved, and that should terrify you a little. Here's your final fact. Alexander conquered approximately 2 million square miles in 13 years with ancient weapons. The entire United States is about 3.8 million square miles. With a modern army and that mind, the math becomes very uncomfortable very fast. History gave us one Alexander. Let's be grateful. It only gave us one.